Okay, so we've got a bit of a new feature. You can think of it as a change to an old feature, but so if you're on a team's page, either my schedule or another team, and you're looking at the list of completed games, um, what we've always had is just here's some summary stats, result, link to the team page, and then some splits, right? So we can see how the numbers change, whether just the games where they won versus lost, or by month, or conference versus non-conference. So we've got the individual data. We've also got these summary splits, so you can kind of compare in different situations. We've also had this adjusted versus raw, which is just, do you want to, if it's on, right, you're adjusting by who they played. If it's off, then you're just looking at the raw numbers and you're ignoring who the competition was. So that's what the feature has been in the past. And I've had a few teams ask about a way to make this a more useful tool. And so I've added a couple things that I wanted to walk through. The first is the default is that you're looking at sort of an overview of the various stats, right? We've got the top line stuff, the efficiencies, win rates, and then the possession margin. The change is that now, if you want to, you can go and just look at the offensive stats, right? So it's a different set of numbers, kind of all underlying that efficiency. So we've got shooting percentage, shot on goal rate, shots per possession, and then the turnover rate. So this is just focusing on the offense in those games. You could also do the same thing for defense, right? So this is now the Utah defense in those 15 games. Obviously, all the numbers down here will change too, right? So you've got the same splits that we've always had, just, it's more focused, right? We just will care about possession margin. So we can look at win rates, the true win rates, clearing and writing. So again, same concept. Here's the games. Here's how the numbers split in different segments. So by and large, this piece is just adding a new type of filter, so you can kind of dig into certain facets of the game. The other piece is a little more complicated. The problem with what we have right now is it doesn't allow you to say, but I want to see these specific games, right? So you might say, I just want to see my SoCon games plus Denver, for example. And previously there was no way to do that. The use case here is something like we switched tactics, right? And I want to see how our numbers have changed in the games where we're doing something specific. Maybe it's an injury. I want to see how an offense or a defense has changed their underlying stats when a certain player was out, for example. So there's lots of ways you can think about this that go beyond the sort of the standard splits that we already have. And so if you want to go and look at something beyond the standard splits, you just click this custom comp button. That'll pop up these checkboxes, right? And so for Utah, let's just do something, and we'll just say I want to look at those first four games, and or we'll say five, six, whatever, and that's going to be probably a little different than the ones that we have down here, right? So what ends up happening is now we've got the six games that was Ohio State, Delaware, Denver, Vermont, Syracuse, and Dartmouth all grouped together up top. And then we've got everything else grouped into a separate bucket. And so what we can kind of glean from this is that, okay, in this sort of situation, well, we're on the possession number, so we'll start here. There really wasn't any difference in their per possession efficiencies in those games, but we do see there was a big change in how well they did at the faceoff dot between those two segments. So you can dig in there and understand a little bit more about what happened, right? I mean, it's whatever the case is here. But the idea is, okay, instead of just forcing you to say, I care about a certain split of games, but that's not available here. Now you can kind of customize and say, hey, you know what? Add Air Force in. And now all of a sudden Air Force is in that group as well. And then you still got the ability to go through and say adjusted versus raw or splits. But idea being, whereas before you were limited to either looking at individual games or using the splits that were provided, now you can create your own splits. So that's the new feature. Play around with it. Let me know if you have any questions.